So 8019 EC 94 Adesh, make your mic in mute mode. Okay, so last time we have discussed the spherical coordinate system essentials, the coordinate translation, its practical significance, importance, vector translation, and unit vectors. Also, the infinite simile small incremental lengths, surface areas in scalar as well as vector, and finally, expression for incremental volume. Now, let's go for next important topic, that is nothing but physical significance of gradient curl divergence and Laplacian operators or operations. So in this case, this is very important and part of vector calculus. So we would see this. So what is the interpretation? What is the use, application, significance of all that we would see one by one. So let's go for gradient. Prior to that, we would see what is del. So basically you will find that del is essentially a spatial differential operator. So let's say I am expressing it in Cartesian coordinate system. So I've written here Cartesian coordinate system expression. So del is del x, del y, del z. So with respect to space, the differentiation has been taken x, y, and z, and it has a directional aspect. So derivative in x direction or rate of change in x direction, hence it is a cap x. Derivative in y direction, hence it is a cap y. Derivative in z direction, hence it is a cap z. So you will find that it is a partial differential operator and it is vector in nature. So this is called as del, or it is also called as nebula, another name. So nebula or del is a partial differential operator which is there. Now when partial differential operator is there, naturally various possible types of operations would be either in the form of product, scalar or vector, or this particular vector operated on a scalar field, or this vector operated on to itself, what it will generate, that we would see, and its significance or different types of operation. So using this partial differential operator, though it is written here in Cartesian coordinate system, it is quite obvious that it can also be expressed in terms of cylindrical and spherical coordinate system. So it's our job. That is what I said, that initial pages of your copy should contain all the important formulas. So what you can do is you must be well versed of writing anytime whenever it is required all these four operations into all three coordinate systems. So 12 expressions must be learned by heart by you. So in that case, you will find that the gradient, curl, divergence, and Laplacian, all four operations in all three coordinate system, all these 12 expressions must be known to you. So you will find that using this operator, okay, following different operations can be written or expressed. So which are they? Let's see one by one. So in this case, first we will go for gradient. and gradient of essentially a scalar. So gradient of a scalar, it is also indicated as grad of V, let's say, some V, where V is scalar. Scalar, and that too it is a field or function basically. So V will be a function since gradient is a spatial operator with respect to space. Therefore, you will find that V also has to be a function of space, that is x, y, and z, and has to be of scalar nature. So what is bound to happen is, in this case, let's say there is a surface, some surface is defined, and this surface, let us say, is having a scalar potential field V of x, y, z. So basically you will find that V is a scalar potential and field. When we say field, it is expression of the coordinates. For example, one example can be given as V can be x square y z raised to minus 1. This is just one example. So at any given point you put value of xyz, you will get value of v. So dependency is there on the basis of coordinates. So in space it is spread like this, but essentially it is scalar in nature. Now what happens is, when this particular this thing scalar continuous function is there, which is defined as a potential field, and at some given point p, if you find the normal direction, so this is a cap n essentially in this direction, the dv by ds, s stands for space, so it would be dv by dx, dv by dy, dv by dz, whatever, all together dv by ds. So if you find rate of change with respect to space, so if you find spatial variation or spatial rate of variation, that too in which direction? Normal direction. Okay, so a vector normal to the surface, which surface over which this particular potential field has been distributed or is spread over. So this V is spread over on this surface to this surface at a given point. Typically, if you define a normal unit vector in that direction, if you find out the space rate of change, then right now that particular proof would be outside the scope of our discussion, but it can be proved that it would be then assume maximum value. So basically it would be a maximum space rate of change in normal direction to the surface on which this particular potential field, which is scalar in nature, is distributed or is function of space. So when this happens, then whatever this maximum space rate of change in normal direction you get, that is called as gradient of scalar function V. Hence, from this concept, we can define gradient or grad of V is equal to nothing but dV by ds of V max in a cap n direction. This is the physical or practical definition of gradient. So whenever someone asks you the definition of gradient, the definition of gradient is maximum space rate of change in the normal direction to the surface over which that function is spread or is present. So V is present on a surface. The normal direction to it is a cap n already we have said that whenever direction is to be mentioned, then it is mentioned in the form of a unit vector. So that's why this is unit normal vector. And dv by ds is nothing but space rate of change, and that too which kind of rate, that is max rate. So you will find that max rate, how it will get defined. So you already know that any function in a form of curve when gets defined, then the rate of change is always defined by a tangent drawn to that surface typically. And naturally the incline of the tangent would always define the rate, whether it is more or less. Now you know that horizontal means it is zero slope, and what is the extreme ideal case of maximum rate or maximum slope? That would be in a pure horizontal case would be like y-axis. So it will be basically normal to that particular surface at that point. Hence, maximum space rate of change would be there. So you will find that when this is done, then you always get the gradient of a given scalar function. Now, few things which we should keep in mind is the outcome, hence outcome of a gradient. Outcome of a gradient is always a vector. So as it is evident here that a cap n is basically a cap n is basically present over there. That means this particular dv by ds max quantity will get multiplied by a cap n. So your final answer has to be a vector basically. Therefore, this is very, very important that outcome of a gradient is always vector, but gradient is always computed. Gradient is always computed for a scalar. So this you should not forget. Gradient is always computed for a scalar. Now, in this case, what is the practical application of this? So I will give you one example. Let's say there is a room, and in this case, in this room, let's say chilly winter is there. So we have kept a room heater, in the room. Now, naturally, room heater, what it does is the heat flux emitting from the heater will spread in the room. So it will be a scalar spatial function as a field basically. So this would be the heat flux or heat which will get distributed in the room. Now let's say a chilly winter night is there and some bee or insect enters the room. Now in that case, mathematically, which path this particular bee should follow? So in this case, we have a question that typically you will find that there is a temperature variation in the room. Naturally, the corner at which the heater is situated, there you will find that the warmth available there would be more. It will be less at the distant corners. So in that case, what shortest path the bee or the insect should travel? This is question mark. So if this question is there in our mind, so that the fastest temperature variation is seen by the bee. So what we want is fastest temperature variation is experienced by the bee to get what? Warmth. So as it is chilly night, from outside it has come, so freezing temperatures are there. It is about to die, so to get the warmth, in which shortest path it should travel? So fastest temperature variation towards increasing warmth is experienced and the bee can save its life. This is one example given. Then you will find that the answer to this question is now already it is a question of life and death, but here also still maths would come. And sorry about that, but the answer is the bee should travel basically okay, in the direction of gradient of heat flux. So it should travel in the direction of gradient of heat basically, or flux or temperature, whatever you say, whichever function you are expressing as a function of space. So basically whenever the fastest spatial variation is required, then you will find that we always should follow the direction of the gradient. Now direction of the gradient means what? Answer to this question would be, it would be nothing but grad of, let's say that function is f, so grad of f upon mod of grad of f. Okay, common sense now. If the gradient vector is divided by its own magnitude, what it is going to define? Come on, tell me. Am I audible? So gradient of a scalar function, this particular outcome is a vector divided by the magnitude of the vector itself. Obviously, what it will define? So vector upon its own magnitude, of course, it is going to define a what?
Direction.
Direction. Direction is correct, but which direction? This has a significance now. Unit vector also is partial answer as given by Tanmay. Basically, it is definitely going to define a unit vector, but it is gradient upon magnitude of gradient. So which kind of vector it would be? It would be, it would not be just unit vector, but it would be
Direction along the gradient.
means which direction? That is what I am saying. Gradient is always along which direction? So which unit vector it would define?
Normal to the surface.
Exactly. So in this case, you will find that this is a not only just a cap, but this n has significance. So it would be normal to the surface. So that's why this also defines a practical application that if you want to find the unit normal vector for the given surface or locus of point or surface distribution, whichever is there, situation is there, then in that case you have to find gradient always, and gradient divided by its magnitude will always give you unit normal vector to the surface. So whenever to the surface field distribution a unit normal vector is required, it would be this divided by this. So in this case, you will find that unit normal vector would be there, and this would be defined. Now, in this case, you will find that there are many various important applications of gradient as far as partial operation is concerned. Please keep in mind that this is a mathematical operator, so it cannot be the case that its application would always remain limited to electromagnetism only. Even if you tomorrow you are learning uh, image processing or pattern recognition or signal synthesis and all, there also you will find that its application be there for various important problems. So one important application in case of electromagnetism, which we would finally conclude as the most preferred way of computing electrostatic field from the given scalar electric potential, and therefore we would be further we would discuss this, we would be deriving this expression A is equal to minus of grad of V. This is very important. So this gradient operated over a scalar will always give us an electric field. This is the most preferred way, and that will be our target. And see the convenience here, the electric field is computed with the help of differentiation, which is comparatively an easier operation compared to integration. And secondly, we have to deal with a scalar and not with a vector. Dealing with vector is very problematic basically. So you will find that this is the most preferred practical application as far as gradient is concerned. So this is all about the physical significance of gradient, its application. Now your job is to write the gradient expressions in the book or refer the net or whatever it is there. But as a homework is gradient Cartesian expression I have written. You people also have to write the gradient cylindrical system and spherical system expression. Means expression expressing gradient in cylindrical system and spherical system, the gradient of a scalar function. And there you would realize that since the arc lengths are there, arcs are not linear in nature, so you will find that a compensating factors would come in the inner product as far as it is not straightforward as del rho or del phi. Del phi is a spatial variation with respect to angle. So you will have to convert it into the space variation, and therefore you will find that the multiplying by the radius and these kind of things would be there. Therefore that compensating factor would come. So categorically you make a practice to write or express gradient in cylindrical as well as spherical coordinate system. Then you will find that in this case this is all about gradient. Now I will have to add a page here. So if you have noted down, I will go to next page. Is it okay? Shall I add a page here? Shall I go to next page? Okay. So you will find that so next now we will go for next operation, and that is called as the divergence operation. So next is the divergence, and divergence of a vector. So basically divergence is always of a vector function, vector field, whatever it is there, or it is also called as div of a. So divergence of a vector is there. Now in this case, first of all, the practical or physical definition of divergence is to be understood very well. Now what is bound to happen is, always remember, if you have a vector A with you, and if you take A dot ds, where ds is the vector area, and then in that case you will find that if you are taking closed surface integration over surface S of A dot ds, so what is bound to happen is, let's say this is one incremental infinitesimally small volume. Actually, enclosed surface area would always define a volume. So what you are doing is, this particular surface area is there sidewise. Let's say this is ds1. So you have to compute value of a dot ds1 by taking a normal vector. So this is ds1. Then let's say the top surface is there. So in this case, let's say this is ds2, and so this is now front. Okay, so let's say this is ds3. So in all days would be computed in all the six surfaces which are enclosing the volume, given volume. So if you compute this thing a dot ds, then always remember closed surface integration of a given vector, okay, is always defining rate of net outflow, rate of net outflow of the vector quantity, okay, out of the enclosed volume. So if anybody asks you, okay, find out the rate of net outflow. Of course, the quantity should be evolving or emerging from the enclosed volume or that surface area. For example, if you put a bulb, then the light would be spread out of it. Or if you have a room freshener, then the fragrance would get spreaded in all direction. If the antenna is there, the power would be radiated. Like that, some emerging quantity should be there. Now, in this, you will find that if this kind of thing is happening, and if you want to assess what is the net rate of outflow coming out of that enclosed surface area which constitutes a volume, then rate of net outflow of that vector quantity out of that enclosed volume is always given as closed surface integration of the vector quantity A dot ds. So it is, what is happening is rate of net outflow, and as closed surface area defines a volume, when that rate of net outflow it defines per unit volume. Now what is bound to happen is the volume of such incremental enclosed surface would be delta V. Therefore, per unit volume means it would be delta V. So in this case, what happens is it is rate of net outflow per unit volume, because ds has a volume delta V. So I have divided this by that. So therefore, you will find that closed surface integration over surface S, that is rate of net outflow divided by the volume, would define it per unit volume. But in what case? Since it is emergence, the special condition added to it is provided that volume is shrinking to zero. This is very essential. So actually it is a squeeze action. So if a ripen mango is there, if you squeeze it by your hand, then the juice will come out of it. So it is basically rate of net outflow, or you will find that similar to computing divergence of that vector quantity. So you will find that when shrinking is to be considered, that means fine. So basically, del is a spatial operator, and then you will find that with this, basically you will find that the what I will say is the spatial operator would be used, and therefore this particular quantity would be defined as at a point. Therefore, this is then would called as divergence of A is equal to this. This is the practical definition, and you can find here that the net rate of outflow per unit volume is defined in a scalar way. There is no directional aspect of it. Therefore, the essential characteristic of this operation is outcome is scalar. This everybody should keep in mind. So outcome is scalar, divergence of A is equal to, and delta V is tending to zero. So this would become a point. It is defined at a point. It is defined at a point. Now that reminds me that this is a definition, conceptual definition, practical definition. But what is the formula? Okay, formula to compute it. So you will find that the mathematical formula, if you want to compute divergence, is simply dot product of this partial differential operator del and the vector quantity. So it is del dot A. So many people say del dot A is the definition. Del dot A is not the definition. Del dot A is a formula or postulation to compute divergence of a given vector quantity, which can be written in any particular coordinate system. Either it is Cartesian or it is this thing. So suppose let A vector is equal to ax, a cap x, okay, ay, a cap y, and let's say az, a cap z. If this is the case, then with this formula, del del x, okay, a cap x plus del del y A cap Y plus del del Z A cap Z. Okay, in this case, dot, you will find that it is AX A cap X plus AY A cap Y plus AZ A cap Z. This is the case. So what you get is dot product, means only similar directional product would persist. So it is del del X of AX plus del del Y of AY plus del del Z of AZ. This is the answer. So we would find that divergence of A in Cartesian coordinate system essentially scalar in nature. So, but what is its significance? Significance is rate of net outflow per unit volume, provided that volume is shrinking to zero. This last statement is very important. So, for a shrinking value volume as a squeezing quantity, the rate of net outflow is particularly defined by divergence. This is what is the uh, expression or definition of divergence. Now, this reminds me grad of A formula. I think I forgot to explain. So, on a scalar V, it is there. Then you will find that this would be del x of V itself, but in this direction. Then you are computing differentiation of V again with respect to Y in Y direction, and again differentiation of V with respect to Z in Z direction. So this is a formulation of gradient as far as partial differential operator is concerned. Again, coming back to divergence now, my next question is, what is the application or what is significance? Okay, so we could see that maximum space rate of change is always governed by gradient. So whenever we are in need of fast variation with respect to space, we would talk about gradient. What is application of divergence, you think? If it gives net rate of outflow, my question is why you are interested in knowing the rate of net outflow of a vector quantity. Now, rate of net outflow from an enclosed volume, my question comes only if the volume is there. Volume means enclosed surface is there. So there has to be a closed volume. So why you are interested in knowing the quantity evolving from a closed volume, basically outcome? Why it is so? Yes, am I audible? So what can be the application, or in other words, practical significance basically, or physical significance of divergence, computing divergence? Why there has to be a need to compute divergence at all? And I just want to give a stress on this concept only. What happens is student mechanically, whenever divergence is asked, they know that it is a dot product of or scalar product of the partial differential operator del and the given vector quantity. So we have seen that divergence is always computed for a vector, that is okay, outcome is scalar, dot product you can take, but that is formulation. Now, if you know the actual theoretical definition of divergence, then my next question is, what is the application of significance? Why do you want to know the net outflow of the vector quantity emerging or evolving from a closed volume? Why this rate is important for us? Come on. It can help in measuring density. That is what Sushant says. How? Which density? For calculation of electric flux, suppose there is a charge distribution, that is what Sushant says. Okay, so you mean to say further in electrostatics we are going to discuss one important equation, that says that del dot D is equal to rho V. So this is by your JE background, whatever you have studied based on that. Now, as Rima has said, flux density, so flux density would come from flux. So if flux is there, then in that case flux density would be there, which would be D. So we are saying that the divergence of D del dot D is equal to rho V. Now that is what happens. Again, it kind of formula the point, formula centric outcome only we know, but we don't know the in general importance of this. Means basically, computing density is just one possible application. But what is the generic need of computing divergence at all is there? That we must be in a position to answer. So D is a vector with that the rate of net outflow of a volume charge distribution or charge distribution which is there inside an enclosed volume which is there. So that is what Sushant has pointed out. Now from our further discussion from electrostatic point of view, as I have said that gradient has an important application, just like that this is the important application as far as electromagnetism is concerned. So answer is correct as far as a multiple choice question a question is concerned. But what about the concept or fundamental need basically? That you must all understand. This is very, very important. So basically, if you say that to compute density, then as such, this is an incorrect answer and it directly points towards the fact that you have not understood the very significance or meaning of this particular equation, which can be termed as a Maxwell's equation also in point form for static field or for any field which is not charge free initially. So if there is a charge distribution present over here, then del dot D is equal to rho V basically. What do you mean by this? Anybody else? Any other approach? So why we want to know basically or to compute the divergence of a given vector quantity? Come on. Anyone else who wants to pose his or her interpretation for the said expression and all? So I would be glad if more students take some different approach for the same thing. 117 students are there. So class needs to be interactive or I will have to start taking polling during classes so that I would be knowing whether you are awakened or not. And the attendance then would be given only those who participate in polling. But compulsion is not the essence of learning. So I don't want to go for such this thing. Yeah, for the sake of fun and knowing your attention, that can be a good option. But anyhow, what do you think? Any other approach? Okay. Now I will give you hint here. Have you come across these two words? We call it as source and sink. So have you come across sourcing and sinking basically? What do you mean by it? So Sanket, you want to say something or what? Yeah, so Sushant says source where something is emitted, correct? So to give away basically, but and sink where it flows, that is also there. So source and sink where it flows to, that is very correct. So in that case, uh, your household example itself, source and sink. So tap is the source of water from where you can get water. Okay, and when you drain it, we call it as we are throwing in sink. Okay, or so far, let's say any electrical circuit works and consumes energy. So let's say this is a circuit, then you connect an electrical source, maybe battery or mains or whatever it is there. but what we always have is a source, and then finally what we have is a ground. This is how a circuit is connected. So we will find that what we need is a source as well as a sink. So all the currents which are going through different components and all ultimately complete a path, and finally across the circuit different components they come and they get drained in the sink to ground. So both things are very important, sourcing as well as sinking. So as Sushant has said, or Tanmay is referring to magnetic field basically. So emergence of energy. Another thing is source of water in house itself is the water tank in which the water has been stored. Okay, in which the water has been stored in the form of a potential energy basically. So you will find that as a potential energy the water will be stored, and then water runs through the tap, then only it is available or gets converted into the uh, what I can say is kinetic energy. So unless you have water in the tank you won't get water through the tap. So you will find that maybe a stored energy in the form of a charge distribution which is there. So capacitance is best example of that. So you will find that basically sourcing and sinking both are important. And sinking is equally important. Never forget that. So I will ask one common sense question in your home. If you have seen the pipeline, which pipe is thicker? Whether the source pipe which bring water to your tap maybe for drinking or any other purposes, or the water which are getting the water drained from towards the sewer system, which pipes are thicker? If you have seen or observed your house from outside, or during your from your childhood you might have this thing. So always see this, naturally the sink pipelines or the drain pipelines are thicker. That's why in a PCB the ground line has to be thicker, because the all side draining would be there. It is very important. So it is not just the source, but also the sink is very important. Now, as a source of energy, whether a particular vector field has that characteristic or not, or whether it possesses that potential or not, whether any chance of getting energy from it or emergence from it is there or not. Whenever you want to verify this, then one simple way is you compute the divergence of that vector quantity. So here, if I say del dot D is equal to rho V, means it says that the flux would emerge only if initially charges are stored in it. So you will get a water through the running tap only if water is already stored in the tank. If I say initially the region is charge free, I have grounded all the charges and no charges are stored, then if I am saying rho v is equal to 0, what will happen? Del dot D has to be 0, no emergence. Now this time your vector quantity D in initially charge free region is failing to act as a source. So field emergence won't be there, as any time in this equation you can easily replace D by expression epsilon naught times of E or epsilon times of E. So we can bring electric field over there. So basically the electric field itself can act as source or not, that we want to know. But yes, initially if charges are present, then it can act as a source. There would be an emergence. Now whether it is time varying or non-time varying, depending on that, whether you will get waves or not, based on that the energy propagation would be there. But actually whether that particular field or the charge distribution or things resulting out of it has a potential of acting as a source or not. This potential means not electric potential, general meaning of potential, the characteristic has a potential to act as a source or not. If that possibility you want to check, then you must compute or calculate divergence. So any vector quantity or vector field for which divergence is non-zero, then that immediately we come to know that, oh great, this particular vector field can act as a source. Now if divergence is negative, remember, so in this case, if divergence of vector A is non-zero and is greater than 0 means positive, definitely it can act as a source. So balloon full of air in which air is already blown. Now if you puncture it or a tire, then it is acting as a source. The air will emerge out of it with a force. So you will find that air emerging out of a punctured balloon or tire would always have a positive divergence. But if you will find that divergence basically is not equal to 0 and is negative and lesser than 0, then definitely it has a capacity to act as sink, so it will absorb everything. So whether something can emerge, evolve or not, if that possibility you want to check, then you have to compute the divergence. And therefore divergence is very important, and hence this equation has a practical or physical significance of the whether the region is initially charge free or not, based on that whether it has a capacity to act as source or not, that we can conclude. Therefore divergence is very important, and that's why you will find that whenever, now new thing which I am discussing here, whenever for any vector quantity, let's say A, the divergence is 0, then in that case naturally such quantities are called as divergenceless or solenoidal also. So why solenoidal? So you know already a solenoid. If this kind of emergence or vector quantity is there, then across it, if you take the enclosed surface area, then what happens is in the path, whatever comes in goes out. That means the rate of input is equal to rate of output. Nothing is retained, so you will find that as such vector quantities would never have a tendency to act as a source and would have the divergence equal to 0. So you will find that the solenoidal fields, or in this case the divergenceless fields, can never act as source or sink. Therefore if question is given and you are asked to comment on it whether the given field can act as source or sink or not, means immediately a thing should strike in your mind is, oh, we have been asked to compute or calculate the divergence of the given field. So that is the interpretation, and therefore you will find that the divergenceless or solenoidal field means for which divergence is equal to 0. Again, homework is now you people have to write the expression of divergence for remaining two coordinate systems, that is cylindrical and spherical. As I have written the expression here for Cartesian coordinate system, you people have to write it for spherical and cylindrical both. So expression for gradient, expression for divergence, both you have to write. And always remember, sourcing and sinking concept is very important as far as radiation or any other phenomena of or important aspects of electromagnetism is considered, which governs then different types of equations. And we would always be interested in knowing for the given this thing vector field, whether it has a characteristic or potential to act as source or not. Okay, similarly now next this thing would be, I have to add a page over here. Shall I move to next page? Have you noted it down? Okay, so I will add a page here. So you will find that next candidate or next important operation is similarly is curl. So as far as now curl is concerned, you will find that what is the practical definition of curl which we can give. So curl is always of a vector quantity, And the two possible mathematical products with the vector are scalar product or dot product, which we have taken already the possibility of having Nebula or Del based partial differential operator, and we have taken dot product and have obtained this thing divergence. Now curl will be, you will find that it would be the formula will be del cross A. But what is the practical definition? Now what happens whenever a vector quantity is there, and as I have said that you have, if you take A dot ds, it gives rate of net outflow. Very similarly, if you take the closed line integral of vector quantity, closed line integral, so essentially from where you start, the same point you should end. So if you take closed line integral for a given closed path, earlier it was one dimension more, so we were talking about enclosing surface. Enclosing surface defines volume. Here enclosing path would define a surface area. So basically for a given contour or for closed path, if you see that, seek a line integral, closed line integral for the given vector quantity, then always remember the line integral or closed line integral always gives you rate of axial. This is called as axial rotation, or in other word, it is also called as circulation. So tendency to undergo any change, basically. So you will find that the closed line integral of a vector quantity is always given as its closed line integral always gives you the rate of axial rotation or circulation. So if the net rotation or circulation for vector A is asked, then naturally you will compute the closed line integration of that vector quantity. But then, as I have said, that enclosing surface area defines volume, and enclosed line integral will define a surface area, and that incremental surface area. So in this case, what is happening is this is a contour like this. So from this point you have started. Now DL1, DL2, DL3, DL4, like that. You are adding, this path is disintegrated into various segments of infinitesimally small incremental length, and then from where you have start, you are coming back again there. So A dot DL1, DL2, DL3, like that, the values you are computing. When you do this infinitesimally small enclosing line integral would define a surface area, let's say delta S. So what is bound to happen is the net rate of circulation, axial rotation or circulation. If you want to define it per unit area, which area which is enclosed by the line integral itself. You see exactly similar. Last time it was closed surface area which defined volume, so it was per unit volume. This time closed path would define a surface area, and therefore closed surface net rate circulation per unit area. Okay, so it will be divided by delta S, provided again. Now axial circulation means what? The axis of circulation or rotation will be normal to the plane in which this particular, so this is the axis around which the circulation would take place or rotation would take place in any of the direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise. So basically you will find that this net rate of circulation in a squeezed manner, if you want to compute, then naturally, okay, limit delta S should tend to 0. But remember, when you say axial rotation, there is a reference of direction. So if I keep my hand in a vertical position, then my axis of rotation is horizontal. If I keep my palm in horizontal position, then my axis of rotation is vertical, because axis of rotation would always be perpendicular to the plane in which the rotation is taking place. Or in other word, we can say that it is always normal. Therefore, if curl in a meaningful manner has to be described completely, then you have to have the unit normal vector along with it. That will always come. And therefore, A cap n basically is nothing but the axial or axis direction, axis of rotation direction. So this will always come. Therefore, you will find that it is quite evident that This is the curl definition. So it is rate of net circulation or rotation per unit area enclosed by the closed path. Okay, and the outcome of it is always going to be vector. So what is the first characteristic which we have seen is the outcome basically of curl is always a vector. When you say vector, in which direction? Of course, normal to the surface in which rotation is taking place. So it will be in the direction of axis. And secondly, now it is evident that curl will be always of a vector. So curl would be always computed for a vector. So these are the two important characteristics. As far as mathematical formulation is concerned, so curl is always equal to del cross A. So if you take a dot, it is divergence. If you take this thing, cross product, then it is nothing but curl. And now if you want to evaluate this, then as you already know that as per the law or rule of computing cross product, this would be the situation. So you have to write compute components here, and here it would come ax, ay, az. Now homework or your job is you evaluate or find out this determinant and write the Cartesian coordinate formula for curl. For example, a cap x would be del y of a cap z minus del z of a cap y. This would be the a cap x component. So you people are expected to write the entire expression for curl in Cartesian, cylindrical and spherical. Still, due to paucity of time, we might not be in a position to discuss the what I would say the physical significance or interpretation of the curl that we would discuss in next class, and also would see what is the practical significance of Laplacian and all. Then using this we would define two important theorems regarding vector calculus, and then we would go for numerical solving or problem practice based on the concept we have discussed so far. So anyway, you write expressions. So before I conclude formally, if any doubt is there regarding whatever we have discussed today, ask it now. Is there any doubt? Okay, so then I will presume that as no doubt is there, I will conclude here today. Thank you.